Hello. Um, this is going to be me ranking every single episode of Doctor Who, and there are a goddamn lot of them. So this is going to take me a long time, but here we are. We have a tier list from S to E. So we got S is the best, then A, B, C, D, E. And I'm going to go through every single episode. They're not in order, which is a bit annoying, but it is what it is. So enjoy. So to start off, the End of Time Part 2. This is definitely the better part of the End of Time, I guess, because it is the end of Tennant's run. I thought it was pretty good. You get the whole wrap-up with all the characters that you have met throughout all of Tennant's seasons. The conclusion with the Master and the Time Lords and everything, and the Doctor turning his gun a million times back and forth. I don't know, I kind of like that. It wasn't perfect. Kind of... I wouldn't say uninteresting, but oh no, now that I think about it, there's also the whole Wilfred storyline. This is a really good episode, and the more I think about it, the more I like. It has the whole scene with Tennant kind of giving his monologue of why he doesn't want to die and how he's important and Wilfred isn't, but then he gives up in the end and he's like, you know what, I've lived too long. This is a really good episode. This is easily A tier now that I think about it. Oh man, I'm gonna have to speed up if I'm gonna cover all of these. Okay, The Idiot's Lantern, boring, non-memorable at all, not terrible, probably D. This is probably one of the worst episodes. I really don't remember much about this. I remember there was that one scene with Tennant yelling at the dad or something, where the dad is like abusing. I don't know if he's abusive, but he's very stereotypical like manly man dad who is trying to like assert his authority, and the Doctor just like talks back to him, and it's really great. That's the only thing I remember from that episode, as well as maybe the faces being taken away. I always thought that was pretty creepy. Other than that, very boring. Runaway Bride. So this was the first episode where we meet Donna back in end of season 2, I think, before we get to Martha. So with this we get, oh man, it's taking me back. So we get, this is the whole origin with the spider and everything, and I think it was a Christmas special where was it a Christmas special? I don't remember much about this episode. I remember it had the spiders, and I think at the end the Doctor kind of commits genocide on the spiders, and then Donna like freaks out and tells him how bad it is, and so for that it's certainly more memorable than The Idiot's Lantern. It's probably a C tier episode. Good introduction to Donna. A lot of strange things happening, but not that memorable overall. The Doctor's Daughter. I really like this episode. It's probably B tier. What do I like about it? I like having multiple companions was very cool. I liked how it was kind of, the sets were really well designed, and the two different races that you followed, they were really distinct. I really liked I don't know what they were, fish people or whatever, but I really liked that glowing liquid they had that they would breathe in. I thought it really stands out. Really cool design. It felt like, I don't know how to describe it, but just the atmosphere of this episode was really cool. Like when, for instance, when Martha and that fish guy, that's what I'm going to call them, I guess, when they step outside and they're like trying to cross the like radioactive surface of the planet or whatever, that was really cool, and the atmosphere that's built up is really cool, like really great set design and everything along those lines. But yeah, and also I guess the central premise of the episode is about the Doctor having a like quote-unquote daughter, like a cellular daughter, and that was fine. I thought she was a fun addition to the crew, I guess. It had that goofy scene where she's like jumping through all the lasers. That was pretty cool. And she never came back, which is funny because the episode ends and you get like this teaser at the end where it's her going into space to go on adventures like her quote-unquote dad. But as far as I know, I haven't actually seen all of the season 11 or 12 episodes, I think, but she hasn't come back yet. But there's always hope. We've got The Stolen Earth. So I think this was the second part of the 3-part finale of season 4, and it is really good. I'd say I'd put it in A tier. what happens? So you've obviously start the story with turn left, and by the end of turn left, you've got the Doctor freaking out because Donna tells him that essentially that Rose gets her message of bad wolf across, and the Doctor's like freaking out. It's like, what is going on? So then he like takes the TARDIS away. They go to the Shadow Proclamation, I think, because I don't know how it happened. Now that I think about it, I don't even know how it happens. So the Earth disappears. That's why it's called the Stolen Earth. Now the things, I don't know how it led to that or anything, but something happens. They go to the Shadow Proclamation. I think this is the episode where all like the companions are introduced to each other. So we get Captain Jack, like with the whole Torchwood show. We get Sarah Jane from her own Sarah Jane and Adventures show. We get Martha. We get, I think we even get Mickey from memory. And it was great. And then we get that one scene when they're having a conference and all the companions and the Doctor are talking. Great scene. And then we get the introduction of, oh boy, Davros, which was cool. It was a cool design villain, like a kind of like a Palpatine kind of guy. Overall, good episode. Love and Monsters. I love this episode. This is an A tier episode easily. A lot of fun. For it's like the goofiness works, and the kind of the way it's framed of like the main character is doing a series of vlogs or something, I think. And he kind of like just explore his daily life as he meets these people and then eventually loses them. And you get the cameo of like Rose's mom and everything. I thought this was a really sweet episode. And the way it ends with like the Doctor coming in and kind of accidentally saving the main guy. But it was cool. Cool episode. Last of the Time Lords. Oh boy. So this was I believe this was the season 3 final episode, or the second last one. I think it's the final one. This was this was a fine episode. It was definitely carried by the end where the Master gets shot and the Doctor essentially tells him to regenerate because it's his last friend, or like last childhood friend, I guess, that he has alive. But that scene carries this episode. Other than that, it's not that interesting. Like, you've got Martha essentially going around and getting the people to believe in the Doctor, or at least think of the Doctor at a certain time, which is kind of cringe, I guess, but it's fine. It's Doctor Who. It all leads up to the end, and that's all that matters, I guess. Voyage of the Damned. It's memorable, I guess. I put it in B tier. You got a whole new cast of random characters that all eventually die by the end of it. I thought the angels in this were a kind of creepy, cool design. The Doctor gets his cool speech about coming from Gallifrey, basically, and they should all trust him. We meet Alonso, who's pretty cool, and we see, I think we see the Queen in this episode, Queen Elizabeth, at the end when she's like waving at the ship, which is pretty funny. But overall, yeah, great episode. Nothing too special, I guess, but I liked it. Planet of the Ood. This is it's a tough one. Probably near the top of B tier. It's not our first introduction to the Ood, but it is probably the one where we get to spend the most time with them and see what they are, like in their origin. We're kind of stepping back in time to kind of see, where the Ood started for the human race. Or not even started, but like, I guess, how they're used before we see them in the Satan pit. But this was a cool episode, I guess. You essentially have two storylines that converge. So you've got Donna and the Doctor kind of exploring the Ood that are being turning red-eyed, I guess. And then on the other hand, you've got the Ood that are being shown around, or not being shown around, but showing around the people who are, I don't know, honestly, I don't even remember. I think they're like giving a presentation of like why you should invest in the Ood or something. But the gist of the story is that the guy in the end, the guy in charge of all of this, gets turned into an Ood, and that's really goofy and cool, and like it's what more can I say than it's a fun episode. The Ood are cool design. Donna and the Doctor are really cool. The song of the Ood is really cool. And him turning into an Ood at the end is ridiculous and great. Waters of Mars. Okay. This is I don't know if I'd go S tier because there's some really good ones coming up, but probably top of A tier. I really like this episode. You've got just a impending sense of doom in this because the Doctor knows that all these people are going to die, and he knows that he can't save them because of how important it is to the future of humanity as a whole, I guess. And over time, the situation is just, it's getting worse and worse, and there's like these water zombies that are a really cool design. Probably the scariest design in Doctor Who. The thing that freaks me out the most, I guess. But I am particularly scared of zombies, just in general. But yeah, so it's got great design there. It's a great sets, great acting, fantastic scenes. Like the first reveal of that guy in the vegetation area, I think, where he is like shaking and turning into the water zombie is freaky. You've got the water zombies knocking 3 times, and the Doctor's like, that's all knocks you're gonna get. And then kind of coming back, saving the day, and then taking it too far and becoming Time Lord victorious. And then Adelaide killing herself to put him in his place, I guess, and it really works. It's very effective, and it leads very well into Tennant's final episodes. I really liked it. I don't think there's anything I could really fault it for. But I'm purely an A tier just because there's other ones that are even better than this. And one of those is the Satan bit. Definitely an S tier episode. So this is Doctor Who exploring... I guess this is the second part. I should probably find the first part because it's also S tier. I'll put it up there when I get there. But essentially these 2 episodes are the Doctor and Rose arrive on some deep space station who are orbiting a black hole, which is impossible according to the Doctor. And there's just great mystery in this episode where you've got like a language being there's a language that's, I guess, transcribed onto a wall by one of the scientists, and even the TARDIS can't translate it, which is crazy, which means it's like impossibly old. And it's a great mystery. Throughout the episode we kind of see a bunch of different ominous things happening, like I think his name was Toby, like one of the researchers getting possessed, and by this creepy voice that tells him not to turn around. It's a really effective scene. It's the introduction of the Ood in these 2 parts, which is awesome. But I guess what really makes these episodes is just the philosophy, or philosophical discussion, I guess, the Doctor has with the devil, or with Satan, I guess. Or the Doctor Who's probably best stand-in for Satan, which is kind of the Doctor questioning the possibility of this guy to exist, and then this guy questioning back to the Doctor that, like, is this your religion? And I thought it was really interesting that this entity is kind of showing that even the Doctor he doesn't know everything. I thought that was really cool. But overall, this is a great 2-part episode. So, man, okay, Army of Ghosts and Doomsday. This is one of the better finales, purely for it's the end of Rose's story. It's executed really well. It's got Torchwood, which I love. It's also got the Daleks and the Cybermen facing off. It's built up excellently. It's got the transporting between parallel universes, the ending scene where Rose has to say goodbye to the Doctor, and then it cuts off before he says, I love you, and brilliant. So great episodes. A tier, probably top of A tier, honestly. But I guess I can organize that at the end. 42, this is a definition of a C tier. It was fine. The sun is possessed or possesses people or something. That was pretty interesting. I like the visuals, like the Doctor getting taken over and the like blazing sun coming out of his eyes, but it's not very memorable. Slightly about the Idiot's Lantern, at least. Silence in the Library, easy S tier. This 2-parter, I guess I'll put the second part up there as well later, but this 2-parter is just peak Doctor Who, where you got mystery, you've got intrigue, I guess, which is pretty similar to mystery. You got great sets, great actors, great lore. Like you've got the introduction of River Song. You've got those the iconic lines of like, well, first you got the iconic monster of Devash the Narada, which is a really cool concept of just having two shadows and one of them being a bunch of parasitic monsters, or I guess piranhas more than parasitic monsters. Such a great idea. But yeah, River Song, fantastic. The end of her story, and the beginning of her in the show. You've got just the idea of people being recorded after death, like in that little machine, and then that coming back around at the end to save River. And this being like the one exception of once in a, I can't remember the speech, but it's like every now and then everybody wins, and it's just a complete victory, and it's a great ending. But there's a great two-parter. Stephen Moffat is going to have a bunch of these episodes in S tier. Fantastic writer. The Girl in the Fireplace, another Stephen Moffat episode, all the way back in season 2, I believe, because Rose and Mickey were in it. Fantastic. I don't know what else I can really say. Everyone loves this episode, so I know what I can add, but it's great. The concept behind it of like you being in this futuristic spaceship and the windows, or having windows into all the moments in this girl's life as she's growing up from childhood to her death. Fantastic. Like out of all these episodes, probably the top of S tier for now. But just so good. Like the design of the clockwork creatures, which eventually come around in season 7 or something, or season 8, I think. They're just brilliantly designed. And whatever her name was, Madame de Pompadour, great actress. We get a little bit of insight into the Doctor, like such a lonely child. That was really cool. Great episode. I don't know what else. It's fantastic. Just watch it. If you can go and watch this episode as like, if you haven't, somehow you are watching this and you haven't seen Doctor Who, just go and watch this episode. It's a great standalone episode. If you love science fiction, you will love this. It is really great. Oh, here we go. The other part. So the Impossible Planet, Satan Pit, 2-part episode, both in S tier. Sontaran Stratagem. So I'm going to again group this as the 2-part with its other part, the Poison Sky, I think it was called. This is great. I loved it. I love these episodes. The introduction of a clone species that entire purpose is to exist in, or to get joy from war, essentially. Like I just love the lore behind, like they've got this eternal war going on with this other race, and they've just, to win the war, they just keep cloning themselves, and it's like an army of clones. Fantastic concept, great design, like visually. I know it's from old Who, but I haven't seen anything. I've just seen like one YouTube clip of what they used to look like, which I think they adapt in like season 13, whatever the Flux season was. I saw that. But this was a great introduction. You get, I don't remember what his name was, but the young, or not young kid, but like the early 20s, late teens guy, the like smart guy. He was really cool. I mean, he wasn't cool, but I mean, he was an interesting character, I guess. Where at the end he sacrifices himself, like Santa, it's great. I just love it's another episode where not the mystery, but like there's a big build up throughout the 2-parter that kind of gets reaches a great climax at the end. So I love these 2 episodes, and I'll put the other one up when I get to it. The Christmas Invasion, it's fine. It's probably bottom of B tier, probably. What even happens? I guess it's the first Tennant episode. Essentially, he's out of it the whole episode, and at the end, oh boy, I don't even remember the species name. Essentially, this species comes and invades Earth and uses blood control. But I guess this episode is really just carried by Tennant's return at the end, where he like turns the blood control off and challenges the main. Oh, I wish I remembered what their species was, but he challenges the guy and beats him in a sword duel. It's great. There's also the line "Kranak Pel Kasakri Salvak," which I don't know why, but I just remember that so well. It's a great insult. I will use it all the time. Fear Her is a terrible episode. Probably it's probably above Idiot's Lantern just because it's definitely memorable. It takes place during the Olympics. There's a girl who can make the things that she draws turn real. And I guess the crux of, or the climax of the episode is that she's drawn her, I think, abusive father, who she sees as a monster, and it's like, oh, the monster's gonna come out and then destroy the world or something, I don't know. And then the hope of the Olympics drags the parasite that's in the girl that gives her power, and it drags it out so that it can go into the Olympic torch, which is a bunch of energy or something, I don't know. It's a pretty bad, but I mean, it's what I just described. It sounds cool, but it's just boring. Essentially, that's what it comes down to. Not a lot is very interesting. The acting is not very good. Like, I don't know if I would say it's not good, but it's just bland. Not much redeemable about that episode. Sound of Drums, I've already talked about this. This is I guess I haven't really talked about it, but it's the first part of the season 3 finale. Where did I put that? I feel like this is going to be a common issue as I go along here, but yeah, so it's the first part of the finale, of a 3-part finale again, I guess, starting with Utopia, which I wonder if I can see that pretty quickly. Yeah, I'll find it later. So, trying to remember where this starts. I think this starts with, essentially throughout this episode, Martha, Jack, and the Doctor on the run. I think it's better than Last of the Time Lords, even though Last of the Time Lords is kind of made as a better highlight in that final scene with the Doctor and the Master. But Sound of Drums is great. You just get a bit of backstory on the Doctor. The perception filter idea was really cool. A solid B-tier episode. Planet of the Dead is in B tier, it's fine. All the specials in 2009, I think it was, like towards the end, or the final specials before Tennant, David Tennant regenerates, they were all good. B tier, it's fine. It's interesting. They go to a desert planet, accidentally. A bunch of, I don't know what you'd call them, bunch of robot sperm, for lack of a better word, destroying the planet. It's cool. You got Malcolm or whatever his name was, the scientist guy. It was fun. Rise of Cybermen and whatever the other part was called. These are pretty boring. It's the Doctor, or Doctor Who, kind of tackling the idea of a multiverse, which was cool. I think that's honestly the best part of this episode, just them being bold enough to kind of tackle that idea. But it's kind of non-memorable to me. I do wonder if I watch it now, if I would rank it a bit higher, because I am fascinated by the idea of like replacing someone. Like, if you are your brain, then like what happens if you replaced everything else? And I don't know, it's just as a conceptual level, the Cybermen are interesting, but I never was interested in them when I was watching this, like 7-8 years ago, a long time ago, probably more than that, honestly. 2010, I think. So what's that, like 12 years ago, a long time ago. But anyway, C tier, this and its other part. School Reunion, another C tier. I mean, going into it, I didn't know anything about Sarah Jane. But it was a fun episode. You got kids at school who are being trained on some expert alien program, so they're becoming really smart, and none of that really matters. It's all just about the Doctor meeting Sarah Jane and just having their reunion, which is why it's called School Reunion. It's fine, not too interesting. Maybe if I'd watched all 2, it'd be more interesting to me. What the hell is this? The Wedding of Sarah Jane Smith. I have not seen this. I would just put that in E tier, because I don't know, it's probably a special, or maybe it's just I hope there's not episodes of the Sarah Jane adventures in here, because I have not seen that. Anyway, Daleks in Manhattan, D tier. Boring. I don't remember anything about, like, I remember Andrew Garfield is in this, I guess that's the main thing. But it was boring and slow and uninteresting, and I guess the best thing about these 2 episodes, which I'll add the other one here later, is that the Dalek becomes human at the end. It's an interesting idea, but it was kind of boring to get to that point. So yeah, Utopia, easy S tier. Of the season 3 finale. It is, or 3-part finale. It's the best part. It's the best part of. I mean, it's one of the best episodes of Doctor Who. So that's my opinion on it. Out of all of these, it's probably my favorite. Yeah, it's probably the top of S tier. It's just so great. Like, it starts off with Captain Jack, and we don't know at that point that he's immortal. So there's a mystery there. We get the teaser where Jack is clinging onto the Tardis, and the Tardis is just going all the way into the future until the end of the universe, or the end of time itself, like 100 trillion years in the future. Great. It's the first time Doctor Who's done it, and it's so cool. Just the sets and like the atmosphere of that final planet at the corner, at the edge of time, at the end of the universe is really great. Like seeing those conglomerations of like the ancient species that used to live there, but it's long gone because of just time being such a force, is so great. And then seeing the settlement of the humans and the way they distinguish the humans by seeing their sharp teeth from the savages that are outside. It's just, this is a masterclass of world building, and it's Doctor Who at its peak. It's also got the whole, I don't know the professor, I guess, and his story, and how it's set up earlier in the season that you've got the chameleon, I don't know what they call it, chameleon arch or chameleon stopwatch, or fogwatch or stopwatch or something, that essentially the professor is a Time Lord, and it's just a mystery that's built up throughout the episode with a great reveal at the end. I didn't know who the Master was, but it was still a great reveal that there is another Time Lord out there, and it's been set up for a long time and executed perfectly. Fantastic episode, one of the best episodes of Doctor Who. It's not very standalone, like you can't just watch this like you can The Girl in the Fireplace, or even The Satan Pit and Impossible Planet, but it's just a great episode of Doctor Who. It's at its peak. Oh man, I got so many to go. Okay. What time is it? Boy, alright. So Gridlock. I love this episode. I know some, like I essentially grew up with the Doctor Who I didn't grow up with it, but I was really entrenched in the Doctor Who fandom, so I do know what a lot of people think about these episodes generally, and I know a lot of people like it, but a lot more people also find it pretty boring or like a strange episode. I really like it. It's just a bunch of conversations in a cool setting of a traffic jam that lasts eternity. And at the end, you get the reveal that this is New York. Oh, it actually is New York, and the city has just been caged off because of a pandemic, I think. It's great. A lot of fun. It's not as good as Waters on Mars. It's probably just above the end of time. I can organize this at the end, but it's a fun episode. You meet a bunch of small characters, cool concept, executed well, great transition at the end to something much different than what we've seen throughout the episode. It's great. Forest of the Dead goes next to Science of the Library, then Time Part 1. That'll go next to Part 2. Oh boy. Okay, Human Nature, Family of Blood. These are the definition of A tier. They are fantastic. The Doctor becomes human for a bit and has to live in human society, live like a human, I guess, as John Smith for a prolonged period of time. It's just great. It's got pretty much everything you could want from Doctor Who. It's got great set design, great acting, great characters, great setup, great villains. Like I really like the family, the family. I really like them. They were really, I thought there was some good acting there. They were interesting. I liked, and obviously I guess these episodes are again made by the final scene with the Doctor revealing his, I guess how scary he can be. How I guess the line was that, like, why did this Doctor who'd faced demons and gods, why did he run from us? It was because he was being kind. It's a great reveal, and it's a great contrast to the human he was being. And now he's a Time Lord again, and is it any better, I guess? So who knows? But I thought it was really good. Shakespeare Code, it was fun. It's always fun seeing the historical episodes of Doctor Who, and Shakespeare was cool. The Carrionettes or whatever, the witches basically. I thought it was fun. The idea of having a power in a name, like when the doctor names the Carrionites, whatever the name of their species was, how it like hurt them physically. I always thought that was a really cool concept. I'm sure it's not unique to this, but I thought it was cool nonetheless. This was fun. I don't know. We get Expelliarmus. That's the climax of it, and I thought that was cool. Being a Harry Potter fan, and we get Queen Elizabeth or something. It's whichever queen is alive in Shakespeare's time at the end. It was cool. Great episode. But yeah, probably B tier, honestly. Age of Steel. That's just part 1 or part 2 of the Rise of Cybermen in season 2. Lazarus Experiment. This was cool. The concept behind it is that this guy has found out a way to de-age himself and essentially be immortal, or come back from death. The Lazarus Experiment, as they say. I'm trying to think of why I like it. I think when I think to all these episodes, I kind of get like a feeling from each episode, and the feeling I get from this is really good. Like just the set design. I mean, I keep talking about set design, but to me, it's kind of like the set kind of builds the atmosphere of the episode, and the atmosphere of the episode is what I remember and what really makes some stand out more than others. And this had a good atmosphere, good acting. You get the introduction, or you get one of the mentions, I guess, of Saxon. Essentially, it's just a fun episode. You get that goofy CGI monster at the end. It's fun. I like goofy CGI monsters in Doctor Who. Fires of Pompeii. This is another historical episode in Doctor Who, and like, yeah, they always tend to be good. We go back to Pompeii before the eruption. We see how the Doctor and Donna essentially caused the eruption because of trying to get rid of these aliens that have invaded, the magma aliens. Introduction of Karen Gillan in this episode to Doctor Who. This is a strange introduction, but what makes this episode B tier rather than anything less is that just the idea of just saving one person. Like, it's a great concept where at the end Donna's like, or the Doctor is just so steadfast on not being able to save anyone because it's a fixed point in time, and Donna just says, you don't have to save everyone, just save one person. And then he saves the family, and I don't know, it's a sweet moment. Tooth and Claw, another B tier episode. Essentially, you've got a werewolf in Victorian times, I think. Queen Victoria is the queen here. And it's surprisingly good. Like, the cinematography, I remember being pretty good in this. David Tennant speaks in his natural accent. And I think it's just the eerie atmosphere in this episode that I really like, with the like combat monks that are fighting, and the werewolf, and just Queen Victoria, and how essentially what I remember from this episode is just a bunch of running away from the werewolf at the end, and I thought it was fun. And then obviously the establishment of Torchwood in the Victorian times, good bit of lore. Evolution of the Daleks, that's another one of the, I would have put this down here, yeah, in D tier. The first, I think it's the second part of the Daleks in Manhattan duo episode. Unicorn and the Wasp, A tier, probably around here, but I'll fix that later. It's a, I don't know what novel this is based on or whatever. Some author, Agatha Christie, I think is her name. I've never read a single book. I'd never heard of her before this episode. I still haven't heard of her. Like, I don't know any of her books or anything. But it's a great mystery. I don't know if she, like, I've heard of Clue, obviously. I don't know if that's like based on her books, or if she based her books on that or whatever. But this was just a great mystery kind of episode of like who killed, who was it about death? I don't know. Yeah, I think someone dies and it's like who killed it, and at the end it's this wasp that was the product of the mother getting pregnant to a alien wasp species in India or something. It was great. It's just a fun mystery episode, which I love. The Next Doctor. So this was about one of Doctor Who's, or one of David Tennant's special episodes before he was going to leave in the end of time. and you meet someone who thinks they're the Doctor, but they're not really the Doctor. They've just been implanted with the memories of the Doctor. It's a sweet episode. I like the reveal of him not being the Doctor and him having his family having passed, but then I think his son was alive at the end, and that was cool. You get the giant Cyberman walking, which was a really cool idea. And there's a few memorable scenes in this, honestly. Like, I remember the graveyard scene with the woman in the red dress, I think. That stood out as something interesting in this episode. Just the whole... I mean, this episode is really made, at least for me, like the introduction of the episode, where you've got someone who could very well be a future Doctor, or the next Doctor, I guess. And then just the possibilities of that, I thought it was really cool. And then seeing him with all his like analog technology and the balloon TARDIS, or air balloon TARDIS, and what else stands out? Like, it's a pretty memorable episode, honestly. It'd probably be tier. Like those, not the Cybermen, but the cyber, like, I don't know what they call them, but cyber animals or whatever, like where you got that body, instead of being cybernetic and they're covered in fur. Like, it's just, there's a lot of memorable things from this episode, even though if it didn't strike a chord with me, but it's memorable. Poison Sky, it's up there with part 1, which I think I would have put in A or B tier. Where is it? The Sontaran Stratagem, the Poison Sky. Yep. Partners in Crime. This is pretty boring. You got the people. You got a company that's making people skinnier. They put in a ring or something, and every night they don't know this, but their fat literally turns into little aliens and then walks away. It's a fine episode. The only thing I really like from it was that conversation from window to window between the Doctor and Donna, because it's cool because it's an episode without dialogue where they're talking, but you can't hear what they're saying, but you know exactly what they're saying, and not just like the general concept of like what they're communicating between each other, but the exact words. I thought that was just done really effectively somehow. But it's not too memorable. I mean, it's memorable, but it's not too interesting, I guess, for me. Family of Blood. It's part 2 of the family, or part 1, I think, of Family Nature and Human Nature and Family of Blood. New Earth. Another pretty boring episode. I think there was like this was with Cassandra, I think, like the last human who's like a kite basically, or a piece of paper. And there's a virus or something, and she swaps bodies with Rose. It's fine. I wouldn't want to really watch it again. It's boring, but it's fine. C tier. Smith and Jones. I love this episode. You get the Jadoon. You get the not time loop, but like the reveal at the end that the Doctor was throwing his tie from the beginning, at the end of the episode. What else is great about this? The time limit of just everything. The build up, like how there's the mystery of the Doctor. Why is he in the hospital? Just his meeting with Martha, and Martha like seeing that he has 2 hearts, and the hospital gets teleported to the moon, and then they're on the moon, and like, what's going on? And then the Jadoon arrive, and it's like a great introduction. And man, I can't believe it's just one episode now that I think of how much happens. But great. I don't know what else to say. A tier, easily. Blink, S tier. Probably around here, but I'll think about it more later. What can I say? It's Blink. The Weeping Angels are great. The build up in this episode is great. The time travel elements of like the Doctor recording a video and then based on a script and then sending it, and then the conversation being had between 2 people in time is fantastic. And it's just great. You can watch this. There's another episode up there with The Girl in the Fireplace where you can just watch this standalone. It's just a great piece of science fiction that transcends Doctor Who, and it's great. But I mean, if you know anything about Doctor Who, you've heard of this episode. It's probably the show's most famous episode and one of its best, definitely. Another Stephen Moffat episode. We've got 1, 2, 3. We've already got 4 of them in the S tier, and I think we'll find a few more later as well. Turn Left, another S tier episode. This is essentially just following the timeline of New Who, but if the Doctor had died during Donna's first meeting with him in whatever that episode was on Christmas, where the spiders come and then he kills them, but instead of killing them or leaving, I guess, he stays and then he dies there. And it's just seeing what would happen to the world and Donna's life. It's just great. It's Doctor Who does a parallel universe well, like much better than what they did in Age of Steel and Rise of the Cybermen. It was just really interesting. Midnight, another S-tier episode. And another episode of Doctor Who, which is completely standalone. You can watch it in a vacuum. If you enjoy science fiction, you will love this. The general, I don't really care about spoilers, but the general gist is that some entity has been spotted in a place where no life can exist, and it develops from there. It's just really interesting. There's a small cast. It's basically just shot in one set, like one small contained location, and it's executed really well. So Journey's End, this is an A tier. It's the season 4 finale, and it's essentially just the wrap up of all of these companions, and essentially a wrap up of the entire David Tennant era, with the Daleks coming in, and the Daleks, I guess, have been in this 3-part finale, but it's just so great. You got so many characters, so many things happening. You got Davros, you got Dalek Khan, and really great stuff happening. Journey's End is great. The Ghost Monument. This was a pretty boring episode. So I've seen some of season 11, I think, which was Jodie's first season. And I think this was the last one I watched before I was like, this is a bit boring. I remember there was like a carpet or something that flew. Honestly, this is probably an E tier now that I think about it. Yeah, I guess I haven't actually seen the other thing in E tier, but this was probably an example of a very bad episode of Doctor Who that I don't remember anything from. I just remember not being interested in it when I was watching it, and that's it. The Woman Who Fell to Earth. Now, this is the complete opposite. This was a great episode. It really gave me faith that Jodie was going to be a great... well, I guess she is a great doctor, but I guess that her episodes were going to be great, and this was going to be like a new good way to restart Doctor Who, which I'm trying to see it's not that bad, but this episode was really great. I remember just thinking how differently the show was shot. Like, I don't know much about filming or anything, but I know that color grading was a bit different, and I know it felt like there were higher quality, I don't know how they do it, but higher quality cameras or something were used. They just looked really good. A bunch of setup for some companions that I thought were really cool. A cool villain in the, I don't know what they're called, but the guy who would take the teeth of the victims he would kill. And yeah, just a great introduction to a new Doctor. Very memorable, very interesting, and it set me up, or it kind of gave me hope that it would be a really good season. I don't know what this is. This will go into E tier. Maybe I'll make E tier stuff I haven't heard of or haven't seen, because there are some season 11 and 12 that I haven't seen. So I'll move Ghost Monument to the bottom of D tier. Put all the ones I haven't seen in E tier. Rosa was another good episode. One of the first ones in Jodie, or the 13th Doctor. I don't know, going into it, I didn't know anything about Rosa Parks or the history of what happened with her in history. But I thought it was cool. Another historic episode, or history-based episode of Doctor Who that I learned a little bit from, and I thought it was done pretty well. Another episode I've never heard of, Arachnids in the UK. I haven't seen this, but I've heard it was terrible, which makes me kind of want to watch it. Because a lot of episodes, for instance, I've got Love and Monsters in 80, and I know everyone hates that episode. So maybe I would like this, but I haven't seen it. The Battle of Runskor of Kolos, and that's the finale of season 11 from memory. I haven't seen it, but it always sounded interesting. I should get around to watching it. Kablam, that sounds familiar, but I don't think I've seen it. Damn, there's a lot of episodes you haven't seen. The Witchfinders I haven't seen. It Takes You Away, that looks interesting. I haven't seen it. Spyfall, I've heard of it, but I haven't seen it. Resolution, I haven't seen. Nikola Tesla, I mean, there's a lot of episodes that sound... Orphan 55, now that's one I've seen. I thought that was fun. I the only reason I watched this was that so I watched pretty much. So my history with Doctor Who. Well, I probably should have put this at the beginning, but so I watched seasons 1 to 4 completely out of order. I would just pick episodes that I liked. I had a friend who recommended like a bunch of good episodes, so I watched those. And then I just like whenever I felt like watching some Doctor Who, I'd pick a random episode and watch it. Then I got to season 5 and 6, and I watched those straight through because they have really strong like storylines that are weaved throughout them. So I watched them in order. Then I started essentially watching week to week live as they aired for season 7 onwards. So I did that for seasons 7, 8, 9, 10, and then 11 is the first one where I didn't. I think I watched the first episode of 11 live, and then from there on I didn't really keep up. Like I watched a few episodes in season 11, but it didn't really interest me that much, so I stopped for a bit. And then a few years later, I was like, okay, I've heard a lot of bad things about Doctor Who. What's a episode that's rated really badly? And I saw that Orphan 55 was the worst, as far as I remember, the worst rated episode of Doctor Who by a long shot on IMDb. So I thought, okay, let me watch it. I got to see what's so bad about this. And it wasn't that bad. It was terrible, like, if you quote-unquote objectively, like, by all the standards that people usually measure the quality of, like, writing and acting and story and world-building and everything. It was really bad, but I liked it. I don't really remember that much about it. I remember that they go to essentially takes place in some vacation on some alien planet, and then you've got you got old people, you got some young person, and there's some uptight person in charge of the hotel or something, and essentially at the end it's revealed that it's Earth after climate change, and it becomes the whole thing about or the whole episode is about why climate change is bad and we should do something, and maybe that's why it's so low rated, because I know people don't like kind of inserting stuff like that into Doctor Who, but I liked it. It was fun. The terribleness and the cheesiness kind of makes stuff better. For instance, Love and Monsters, I really like that. Spyfall, haven't seen that, but that is the Master, so I wonder if he's in that. It's cool. Fugitive of Dune. I think I have seen this actually, because I did watch. I think I watched Orphan 55 and Fugitive of the Jadoon for opposite reasons. In that one was terribly rated and one was pretty highly rated on IMDb. So I think this one had Jack coming back. There's like a cameo, I guess, and it had the Doctor's I guess the Doctor's regeneration before she became the Doctor. But I don't know if that's revealed here or not. Honestly, I don't remember. But it was fun. It's always good seeing the Jadoon. They're a pretty interesting enemy. Can You Hear Me? There's some strange episodes. Ascension of the Cybermen, never heard of it. Praxis, never heard of it. I don't know how there's all these episodes I haven't heard of. The Haunting of Villa Diodati. The Timeless Children. I think I don't think I've seen this, but I think I might have seen like a blind wave reaction to it or something. Or maybe I did see it, because there is quite a lot I remember from this episode, but I do think it was just a reaction, so I'll keep it in E tier. Amy's Choice. So this is the one, I believe, where they're dreaming with the Dream Lord, and you've got two realities, and it's kind of Amy's choice to choose one of them in the end, and she chooses the one where Rory is alive because she loves Rory, and that's like the core purpose of the episode, to kind of reaffirm their relationship. I think it's a great episode. A tier, very interesting. The Dream Lord was cool, setting was great, concept behind it was good, and Amy and Rory are great. Vampires of Venice. This is a C tier episode. It's fine. The set is cool for the I don't know if it was a castle or whatever, but I thought that was cool. Scenes in that room with the Doctor and the fish lady were fun. It's one of the first Matt Smith episodes, and it really he does a good job in it, and it kind of intrigued me enough to keep on watching, which I liked. And obviously you get a bit more exposition about the silence, and the episode ends with like Rory poking his head out of the TARDIS, and he's like, "Do you hear that, Doctor?" I was like, "Hear what?" It's like silence, and it's funny, and I like it. 11th Hour, it's a S tier. It's the first episode of Matt Smith, it's a fantastic episode. You get introduced to essentially a completely new Doctor Who. Like this, as far as I'm aware, like everything changed. The showrunner changed. A bunch of the cast. I mean, essentially all the cast changed. A bunch of the people behind the scenes changed. And it's just a completely different take on Doctor Who. I mean, it's not a different take, but it's a completely different. It feels really different, essentially, to everything that had come before. It feels a lot more modern, and I really like it. It introduces the crack in the wall, which is always a cool mystery. His speech at the end to the Traxi is fantastic, where it's kind of the first. Well, I don't know if it's the first time, but it's one of the first times that the Doctor uses his reputation to kind of scare off an enemy and end the conflict. And I thought that was really good. Even if it does get a bit overused towards the later seasons of the show, I really enjoyed it in this episode. And the 11th Hour is fantastic. Easily S tier. Boy, I still got so many to go. Let me sit up. Okay. Flesh and Stone. So this was the first part of... Was it the second? I think it's like Time of Angels and Flesh and Stone. So I think Flesh and Stone was the first part because they wouldn't want to reveal that the angels are here in the episode title. But then again, looking at this picture, I don't know. Anyway, essentially, this is one of a two-part episode with the Weeping Angels in season 5. You get the reintroduction of Dr. Song, or River Song, I guess. And the Weeping Angels. It's really great. Every episode with the Weeping Angels is great. This one introduced a few new mechanisms, like them being the image of an angel being itself an angel, which is a bit like, it doesn't make any sense, but it's a cool concept in the episode. And them taking over Bob and like using it, reanimating his cerebral cortex to speak through him, which is really cool. It's just a fun episode with the angels, and there's also the whole crack coming through, and that being the crux of like what the angels are trying to do is trying to evade that, and by shoving the Doctor in it. But the scene with it's just such good mystery and like build up, where you've got the scene with Amy closing her eyes because she can't look, because if she looks, then she'll die because the angel will take over. But the people, like the soldiers, one by one going to investigate the crack, and then, or the light, I guess, that's being emitted from the crack, and then just being erased from history, and then everyone forgetting about it except Amy. And like one by one they keep disappearing, and Amy's just like, what about the last guy you left? What are you gonna do? And they're like, what last guy? It's really cool. I love mysteries like that. But these are two great episodes, easily A tier. I'll put the other one up here as well when we get to it. So the Pandorica opens. I will count, I guess this is a two-part finale, but I'll count them pretty separately because they are very separate episodes. But these are both S tier episodes. So the Pandorica opens is all about the build-up of there being this Pandorica that contains the most powerful and feared warrior in the whole universe, and in the end it's revealed that all of these people, all of these enemies of the Doctor, have aligned and worked together in some miracle so that they can seal away the Doctor, who is the one that will cause the end of the universe, and they just want to live, so they're trapping him away. And it's great. It's a great build-up. Obviously, or not obviously, I guess, but Matt Smith has his great speech where he's like, he's got all these enemies in the sky that have invaded or are preparing to invade Earth, and he's like, alright, so one of you come down, who's going to be the first to fight me? You know how many times I've stopped you, who's going to be the one to try first? And that kind of scares off all the enemies, and it's a great speech. And he executes it really well. And this is a fantastic setup for a two-part finale, which, I hope I can find it. Big Bang, I want to talk about that now. Yeah, here it is, The Big Bang, another ST episode. Better than the first part. This is one of the best episodes of Doctor Who. Where we start off in... it's hard to say where we start off, but essentially this takes place at the end of a universe where both the beginning and the end are both collapsing on each other, and time is collapsing itself. So what we do is we start off with the quote-unquote present or future, I guess like 2012 or whatever, and we open up the Pandorica, and we're waiting to see the Doctor in it, but it turns out it's Amy, and then we get like this whole thing about the Doctor traveling back and forth and creating all these paradoxes, but the paradoxes are possible because time itself is ending, and it's just a great justification to allow anything to happen, which is fantastic and fun. And after all those shenanigans, the Doctor, he sacrifices himself, but he doesn't really. When he goes into the exploding TARDIS to kind of end the end of time. But then it's revealed that he went and tried to come back by going through Amy's life and kind of seeding himself as something to remember. And in the end, we get that wedding scene with Amy saying that she remembers the Doctor, and it's great. And he comes back, and it's all the music is there, and it's great. And Rory's like, "The Doctor? How do we forget about the Doctor?" And you get the dancing at the wedding and the giraffe, and it's so great. I love this episode. Sci-fi done well. It's not a standalone episode or anything, but it's a great finale to a great first season for Matt Smith. Okay, Cold Blood and Hungry Earth, wherever that is. Right next to it. These are boring episodes. I don't have much to say. You get the Silurians, but they're boring. You got unlikable. I remember that mother in this episode is very unlikable. I think she kills one of the Silurians, which is funny to think about. She actually kills it, unless she doesn't. That's just I think she does though. And then, oh god, I just don't remember much from these episodes. I just remember not liking them. On the other hand, Vincent and the Doctor, one of the best episodes of Doctor Who. Another history-based episode, probably the best history-based episode of Doctor Who, where you're exploring the life of Vincent van Gogh, or Vincent van Gogh, as they say in the episode. And it's just beautiful. This episode is made entirely by the scene where they take Vincent to the future, to see that his life has meaning, and to see kind of how he will be appreciated in the future. And that doesn't get him out of his depression, and he still commits suicide in the end. And then the Doctor gives his great speech about how every life is a pile of good things and bad things. And what was it exactly? It's like how the good things don't necessarily soften the bad things, but the bad things don't necessarily spoil the good things or make them less important. And it's just brilliant. Next up, we've got The Lodger. This is all of these James Corden episodes are fantastic. It's just a great two people, Doctor and Craig, and their adventures. This is this is the first one where we meet him, and the Doctor kind of inserts himself into his life and takes his place a bit, and Craig is feeling like inferior to him and everything, but then they bond and they clash heads, and Craig learns everything about the Doctor. And then at the end, we get a prototype ship made by the Silence, a prototype TARDIS, which is cool. And then Craig proposes, and they're gonna get married, and it's a nice, sweet episode, very funny, very enjoyable, and I like it. The Impossible Astronaut is an A-tier episode. It's a great bit of science fiction where you've got a Doctor who is coming back into the lives of Amy and Rory, but seems a bit off, and at the beginning of the episode he dies. He doesn't regenerate, he dies while he's regenerating, so he's dead for good. It's a great mystery, because they then go to the diner, and then they see the Doctor again, and he's still alive, but he doesn't actually remember anything that happened, so what's going on? So they travel back in time to the moon landing, and it's just a fantastic build-up to a season that is full of questions and mysteries, and even if they might not be answered as satisfactorily as some people prefer, like the setup here is just brilliant. It's a really fun episode. And I put Day in the Moon up there as well. I think I'm trying to remember. I guess something I didn't mention is that we get the introduction of the Silence in this episode, in Impossible Astronaut, which is probably Doctor Who's best villain. Up there with the Weeping Angels, and for that alone, these are deserving of S tier. But these are both great episodes, back to back. I'm trying to think, how does it resolve? It resolves with the moon and the Neil Armstrong's message being one strong step for man. You should kill us all on sight. Like, it's a great little twist there. even if it is a bit cruel for the Doctor, but I like it. The Curse of the Black Spot. I mean, considering E tier stuff I haven't seen, it's a D tier episode. Really boring. Pirates. I don't like pirates, so I didn't, I guess, until I watched Black Sails, and that was fantastic. Watch Black Sails if you haven't seen it. It's really good. But I don't have much to say. It's a boring episode. Scary episode, I guess. That's one thing I could give it. Like when they get that mark on them and it's like you're marked for death because you have a black spot in your hand. It's kind of scary, but yeah, kind of boring. Christmas Carol, S tier. Honestly, probably the best episode of Doctor Who. I'll consider this at the end when I go over all these and sort them properly, but it's probably the best episode. You get a fantastic science fiction telling of the story of, I don't know what they call it, a Christmas Carol, I guess, is really what it is. We've got the ghosts of past, present, and future, but in this case, it is the past of the past, present, and future of this character who the Doctor kind of gives a show of his past, present, and future by interacting with him all throughout his timeline. So it's by the actor Michael Gambon, I think his name, the actor for Dumbledore. He has a great presence in this episode, and just I don't know what to say. It's a really great episode where you're getting to know, like you meet this man and he's really cruel, but you kind of get to see him when he was younger, and kind of by the Doctor interacting with him, it makes him a better person or a nicer person, and it's just so sweet. And it's a love story as well, where you get that really cool concept of how there's this woman who's dying, and once a year, or once she gets 7 visits, and they choose to visit her once every Christmas, and Kazran or whatever, just saves that last visit forever until he's really old, and then they see each other for the last time there. It's just a brilliant episode. I try and watch this every Christmas just because it's such a great, I don't know what to say. It's just so great. Watch A Christmas Carol. This is another one of Doctor Who's episodes that are completely, I mean, they're not completely standalone, but if you enjoy science fiction, if you enjoy just good storytelling and emotions and everything like that, and just watch it. This is a really great episode. Watch it on Christmas. It's a great Christmas episode. And probably the best episode of Doctor Who, but we'll see if I can think of anything else better. Let's Kill Hitler. This is a very fun episode. It's an A tier. We get a brief recap on where Professor Riversong has been throughout her life. Growing up, after a good man goes to war, we get that, I wish I remember what it was called, but that transforming robot that can mimic anyone that it sees. It's a cool concept, and they're in the past to kind of wipe or to capture Hitler and torture him and then put him back before he dies, which is an interesting concept. It's just a fun episode, where Rory knocks out Hitler and puts him in a closet, and it's ridiculous. It's over the top. It's cool. I guess every science fiction time travel thing wants to cover what happened with Hitler and everything, and I thought it was really cool. Great episode. Okay, so now there's the Rebel Flesh and the Almost People. This is something I found pretty boring and creepy when I was younger, but I think this is something I would definitely appreciate more now if it was indeed handled as well as it is, because I think the concept here of creating a clone who isn't really alive, but they are alive, I guess. If you can't tell if they're alive or not, then they are alive. The whole idea of the Turing test. It's just I'm really interested in it. This is something I definitely want to revisit. But based on what I remember, I think when I watched it, it was a C tier. But honestly, I think if I rewatched it, this would be really good. But it is what it is. Now we've got the Doctor's Wife. Let me think about this. This is a universally loved episode, I know, in the fandom. It's probably one of the, most people would put this in S tier, I imagine. But I don't know, it doesn't stick out to me that much. I thought the set was, the setting was really cool. On this distant planet on the edge of the universe, or even between two universes. and you've got House, which is a person who kills Time Lords, and then you get that speech at the end with the Doctor, where he's like, the House is like, "I fear me, Doctor. I've killed hundreds of Time Lords," and the Doctor's like, "Fear me, I killed all of them." It's a great, memorable line in a memorable episode, written by Neil Gaiman, the famous author, which I don't know anything about, and I only know of him because of this episode of Doctor Who. That's what everyone was going on about back in the day. But yeah, fun episode. Probably B tier, top of B tier. Yeah, it'd be up there with Pfizer, Pompeii, I think, and Rosa. A Good Man Goes to War. This is top of A tier. It's, now that I think about it, it's a top of A tier. It's essentially showing the peak of this kind of theme that's being built up in seasons 5 and 6 of the Doctor using his reputation to kind of secure a victory in the end. And this is the Doctor when he decides to call in on all his favors and go to war against this military church and get his friend back who's been stolen by them. And it ends on a tragedy where it turns out he was played like a fool in the end, and everything crumbles. Like he will rise higher than he ever has and fall much lower than he ever has, which is what River says to Rory at the beginning. And it's also the reveal at the end of who River Song is, which is a fantastic reveal. I'm sure people probably figured that out, but I never figured it out when I was watching, so I thought it was really cool. But A Good Man Goes to War, great A-tier episode. The Wedding of River Song is the season 6 finale. It was a cool episode. It's one of the top of B tier, I'd say. It takes place in a kind of alternate universe or alternate timeline where all of time exists at once. So you've got like pterodactyls and the pyramids being coexistent, and it's just fun. It's an end to the storyline that begins with the Impossible Astronaut, where the Doctor dies, and here we learn why he doesn't actually die and how he survived, and how a fixed point in time is just what you make it and what you perceive of it. I thought it was really cool. It was a fun episode. Okay, so Jesus, we still have a lot left. Okay, the God Complex. So this is quite a different kind of standalone, interesting episode where you've got this hotel where every room is someone's fear. So every person that is in the crew has their room that they're afraid of. And there's this, I don't remember how it's related, but there was a Minotaur at the end that was the monster that was killing people throughout this, I think. It's an interesting episode. It's not too much to say about it. B tier. You see the Doctor's room where we're like, oh, I wonder what his greatest fear is. We never get to see it, but it was interesting. It's a simple concept executed really well, I would say, with a cool cast of characters that are very unique and different to what we usually see in Doctor Who. B tier. The Girl Who Waited. I'd put this in top of A tier. Maybe S tier. This is a really great episode where Amy gets accidentally left in the future, or so essentially I guess the idea is that Amy gets trapped in a dimension where time travels faster. So say like what's 10 minutes to Amy and Rory, Amy lives like 30 years, and when they see her next, she's like 40 years old or something, and she's a completely different person to what we knew. And it's just sad. And at the end, like, I guess we get to see how Amy lived her life in this dangerous resort that was under quarantine and had been taken over by dangerous robots. And yeah, in the end, we get a second, younger version of Amy, who's someone completely different. Like, it's the Amy that we know, but it's not the same Amy that we had. And this new future, the older Amy, just she doesn't, I guess she sacrifices herself in the end. And Rory chooses the younger version of her to keep on living, and it's just sad and a very well executed science fiction concept that is, I think, Doctor Who at its peak. And then on the other hand, we've got Night Terrors that I don't remember much about this episode at all. This is a D tier episode. The only thing I really remember was the scary children doll big face things. Other than that, I don't remember anything. Oh, actually, now that I think about it, I think there was a kid in this episode that was an alien or something, and I think maybe the dolls were, he made the dolls reality by using his like mind powers. I don't know. Weird episode, not too interesting. It probably was scary. It lives up to its name of Night Terrors, but pretty uninteresting. D tier episode of Doctor Who. Closing time. This goes right up there with The Lodger. Fantastic standalone episode with Craig and the Doctor. Second time meeting. And they fight the Cybermen and win in the end. It's great. The Doctor, the Widow, and the Wardrobe. So this is a Narnia kind of reference. It's probably the worst Christmas special, or at least one of the worst. Capaldi has a pretty bad one in my opinion, but this is a D tier episode. I don't care for Narnia. I don't care for this episode. Characters were pretty boring. There was some wooden spaceship or something in the end. I don't remember. It was boring, essentially. The Power of Three. So this is something that had a very good idea behind it, and for like 80% of the episode, it's really interesting. And it's just exploring these cubes that there's like billions of them, or probably more than billions. There's probably hundreds of billions of these around the planet. That just appeared one day, don't do anything. They're just accumulating, and people don't know what to do with them. So we just see how they exist in this world. And I guess the real point of this story is to just have the Doctor slow down and live a few days in Amy and Rory's lives, as they would live on Earth after they've left, I guess, just to live lives. So the reason this is in B tier and not any higher, even though it has a great concept and just is pretty good for like 80% of it, is just the ending is just really rushed, and it wraps up without it doesn't strike me in some big emotional level or have anything where I'm like, oh, that was a clever ending. It's just the Doctor uses a sonic screwdriver and blows up a ship, and that's the end of it. But good concept, pretty boring ending. Asylum of the Daleks. So this was the first episode of Doctor Who I ever watched live, so it has a special place in my heart. Honestly, it's probably not an A tier, but just the memories I have of it are an A tier episode. We got the introduction of Jenna Louise Coleman, or Jenna Coleman, I think she goes by these days, as Oswin Oswald, or Clara, who has been fractured throughout time to save the Doctor. And it's great. I love this episode. We get this is the first episode in season 7, where season 7 was about having standalone movie poster episodes. So there was a big poster about the Asylum of the Daleks, and the idea is that the planet, or the Daleks have a planet where they dump all of the malfunctioning Daleks, and it's just a cool concept. We get Amy and Rory back on the Tardis after they decided to leave. Great episode, fun episode. First episode I saw live. Clara's great. Well, I guess Oswin in this episode is great. Jenna Louise Coleman is great. Great, fun episode. Dinosaurs on a Spaceship. So another episode of Doctor Who in season 7 with the posters. This was fine. It'll go into a C tier. It's essentially... the title is pretty accurate. It's just dinosaurs on a spaceship, and the Doctor goes, and I don't remember what really happens. I know there's some moral conundrum where what's his name? I don't know, the guy. Maybe you haven't seen this. Filch, essentially, from whoever that guy, David Bradley or something, I think. He's the bad guy in this, and I think he does something bad, and the Doctor kills him or something at the end. I don't really remember, but I remember enjoying it. It was fine. It had Ron's dad from Harry Potter in it as well, as Rory's dad in this. Fun episode. I don't have too much to say. A Town Called Mercy, another C tier. A lot of these earlier season 7 episodes with movie concept posters behind them, they looked good, like from a production standpoint, but they weren't that interesting. And A Town Called Mercy is definitely one of these where it's just a town that is, I don't know, it's got a I just don't care for Western stuff at all, and this was essentially just a Doctor Who Western where you've got like a cowboy and an alien. And was there an alien? I don't even remember, but it was a fine episode. It was interesting, but not too interesting, as most of these C tiers tend to be. Now this is Rings of Akkad. This is an S tier episode for me. I know I do wonder what people think of this these days, because when I was watching live and going on doctorwhotv.co.uk back in the day to see the discussions, everyone hated this episode. I think it was a lot of like superficial reasons, I guess, or like plot related reasons of people didn't like some inconsistencies, and they didn't like the singing and having a kid actor, and like, I don't know, a bunch of weird like plot bro kind of stuff where people didn't like it. But I love this episode. I love the atmosphere. I love the setting and just the grand scale. Like, this is an example of a movie poster that is executed perfectly in Doctor Who, where it's just so grand. And I guess when I think to this, I also think of the season 7 trailer that was one of my favorite trailers of Doctor Who, where you just see the grand scale and like CGI and stuff that they've really like the stuff that's being done in season 7. If you look at it from a production standpoint, compare it to like seasons 1 to 4, it's just night and day of like how good Doctor Who has become, like from a production standpoint. But Rings of Akkad is great setting, great atmosphere, great characters, great ambition, great introduction of like Clara and her backstory, and then seeing the Doctor and his great speech to the god who isn't a god. It's like, you're not a god, you're just a parasite. It's a great speech. Probably it's probably the Doctor's best speech, honestly. I love the singing, I love the song, I love the effects in this episode. I love the even the practical effects, which I'm not really a big fan of practical effects, but I thought they were really cool with all the aliens and stuff. I love this episode. I love the resolution with Clara's leaf, and the leaf having significance because it means something to her personally. Or it means, I guess, infinity to her. And yeah, I mean, putting aside even the grand thing, I just love this episode. It's a great episode. The Snowman, another I wouldn't put it in S tier. It's an A tier episode. It's the introduction of another version of Oswin or Clara. It's not Victorian times. It's like in the honestly, I don't know much about history, so for all I know, it could be in the 1800s or the 1900s or even the 1600s. But essentially, it's in the past, and it's the introduction of her as a possible companion to the Doctor. So the Doctor is like a kind of he's like a distant. He is distant in this episode at the beginning, where he's just some guy in a cloud that you never see. But what you really get in this episode is the wonder and like the excitement of having a new companion join the Doctor, and just seeing like the introduction to the TARDIS in the clouds and the new set, and the Clara just being so interested in it is I love it. This is one of the best introductions to a companion. I guess she's not really a companion because she does die at the end, but it's just one of the best introductions to a potential companion that has been done in this show. And Jenna Coleman and Matt Smith are just great together, especially in this episode. And it's great. The Snowman, good episode. Good Christmas special. Okay, so only like 50 to go. The Angels Take Manhattan. This is a B tier episode. It's the final episode for Amy and Rory before they get taken by angels into the past and live out their lives in an era that the Doctor can't interfere with. I watched this live, as I did all of these season 7 episodes. I thought it was fine. The angels are always cool. We get River's song and the Doctor giving her some regeneration energy. I always thought that was sweet. But I don't know. I thought it was a bit... I don't really know why I didn't like it so much. Like, there was that goofy Statue of Liberty angel, which was a bit weird. Yeah, it's a fun episode. B tier, but it's not too interesting to me. So now we've got Cold War, another season another season 7 episode with Clara. This was not very interesting. Another episode where I don't remember too much from it. I remember the Doctor and Clara get stranded on a submarine in, I think, Russia or something, during the Cold War. Maybe it's not Russia, I don't know. I think it was Russia now that I think about it. I remember Davos was in it from Game of Thrones. But anyway, the crux of the situation is that there's an alien on board. I remember there was this, like, it grabbed Clara's face with its hands, and that's like a visual I remember pretty distinctly. But other than that, I don't remember what the alien... Oh no, I do remember now. It was a Martian, but out of its armor. Okay, it's coming back to me a bit. But yeah, I didn't particularly like it. I thought it was pretty boring. The TARDIS just disappeared, because why not? And then he comes back at the end, because why not? A boring episode. C tier. So, like, season 7, I guess, had, like, it was a problem with season 7 where the good stuff was really good, but the bad stuff was just pretty boring. Which is, I guess, a problem you run into when you're doing standalone episodes, which season 7 does a lot more than it used to in earlier seasons. But anyway, The Bells of St. John, another not too interesting episode of season 7. It's the reintroduction of, I guess, the first introduction of Clara, like, as we know her. This is where, before she becomes Oswin or Clara in the old times, this is the first meeting between Clara and the Doctor in the present, 2012 or whatever. It's fun. I remember the general concept was that Wi-Fi was being hacked, and then people were, like, sucked into the Wi-Fi or something. Strange concept. There was a man with chips that became a meme about he was going to be, like, the grand villain of the whole arc, and that didn't turn out to be anything, but it was fun. I don't know. Clara's great. She kind of elevates every episode she's in, but it wasn't too interesting. I guess the Doctor rides up a motorbike up a skyscraper or something at the end. I don't know. A fun, weird, decent episode, not too interesting. C tier. The Crimson Horror, pretty bad episode. Was this? I think this was also season 7, toward, like, the second last episode, I think, before the name of the Doctor. Something like that. Boring. Like, this is a D tier episode easily. I just didn't like it. I don't have anything to say. It was set in, I don't know, again with timelines, but it was something like Victorian times, or essentially older times than the present. And we got to follow our trio where we've got man, the names, it's been a while. Strax, Jenny, and Vastra, I think. And they get to meet the present Clara, who they've never met before, but they saw die in the Snowman. I don't know. It's a very strange episode. I don't like it. D tier. One of the worst ones. Nightmare in Silver. So this is interesting. Another season 7 post episode, which I think this is one of the better ones. Essentially what it is it's the reintroduction of the Cybermen, but to make them much more dangerous. So they are dangerous enough now that in the end they have to destroy a whole galaxy to get rid of them, or something like that. It's a cool reintroduction of the Cybermen, making them more powerful. Like, I remember that one scene where they're like a speedster, where they're like running and everything is in slow motion around them. They're just threatening. It's fun. The Doctor gets to kind of, I guess Matt Smith gets to play himself, like, as in the Doctor, and also play some cyber leader who is using the resources of the entire, like, platoon of Cybermen, the entire species, quote unquote, of Cybermen, using their computational power to verse the Doctor in chess, and it's fun. It's great. Now that I think about it, honestly, that moves it up a bit in B tier. Why? I guess the reason it wouldn't be an A tier is just that the conflict with the Cybermen was a bit, like, their powers are cool. Their power scaling is really cool. Like, them getting a lot stronger than, like, as the episode goes, and they adapt, and that's kind of like central to the Cybermen, and it's cool. But it just resolves pretty quickly. Like, the Doctor just wins in the end, and I don't know. Another episode where it's like good premise, pretty good execution, just ends pretty poorly. Yeah, similar to Power 3 over here, I'd say. The Name of the Doctor. So this I really like. This is an A-tier episode. It's the season finale of season 7. And it's great. Essentially, the crux of this episode, or what it's really remembered for in my mind, is this is an explanation for how Clara is just scattered throughout the Doctor's timeline. We open with a flashback all the way back to the Doctor first stealing the TARDIS in Gallifrey, and Clara's there. And this is the first time Doctor Who's really done a flashback like that. It will do it again later on in later seasons, but this was the first time, so it was special, I guess, to me, and I really liked it. But it's a fun episode. Cool science fiction concepts. The Great Intelligence is just an interesting villain. We get the reintroduction of River Song post the Forest of the Dead, where she is, I don't know how it works, but she's got like a psychic link with Clara due to the shared dream they had, but the Doctor can also see her. It's a sweet moment where like they kiss and only the Doctor can see it. And then obviously the episode, I say obviously, but it's not very obvious, but the episode ends with the War Doctor being introduced, and this is a great setup for the Day of the Doctor, which I see it here, so I will just go straight to it. The Day of the Doctor is peak Doctor Who. It's the 50th anniversary special. It's probably a lot of people's favorite episode of Doctor Who. It has 3 versions of the Doctor, 2 established ones in David Tennant's Doctor, the 10th Doctor, and Matt Smith's Doctor, the 11th Doctor, and the introduction of John Hurt as the War Doctor. It's fantastic. This is not a standalone episode. You will only appreciate this episode if you've seen all of Doctor Who, in my opinion. It's just great. It's I don't know what to say. The kind of the way that Tennant and Smith bounce off each other is fantastic. It's just so much. It's a great episode. It's the definition of S tier. So much great stuff happens. The scene with all the 13 doctors coming in, and the reveal of like Capaldi and being like, "Oh no, sir, all 13," and then he like shows up. It's just fantastic. Seeing Rose again as seeing Billy Piper again as Bad Wolf, which is not really Bad Wolf, but actually now that so that whole concept is really cool, where you've got this weapon that has become conscious because it is so powerful, and it kind of takes the persona of Bad Wolf, but it's just such an interesting mystery. It's not a mystery, but it's kind of like, it's by having Bad Wolf, or having the weapon take the persona of Bad Wolf, it kind of brings up the question of whether Bad Wolf is the weapon, or whether the weapon even created Bad Wolf or something. It's just a small detail that I thought is really cool, which I'm sure no one else really cares about, and I probably explained it really poorly, but it was really cool. And then the Day of Doctor is so good. Like, even as a piece on like self-forgiveness and everything, where at the end the Doctor's like, great men are forged in fire, it is the privilege of lesser men to light the flame, and then but in the end what happens is that they all work together and they all forgive each other, and they save the day and bring a new history to Doctor Who, where the Time Lords are actually saved from the Daleks in a pocket universe or something. It's great. And then obviously, I say obviously again when it's not obvious, but at the end we get the Tom Baker Doctor as the curator of the art gallery, and it's great. I haven't seen any. I've seen very few old Who episodes, and they're all from the Hartnell era. But seeing Tom Baker and being part of the fandom, I just knew how monumental it was, and I thought it was really cool. Great episode. Day of the Doctor. I guess it's not really an episode, it's more of a movie. I saw it in the cinemas, actually. I should probably also say that, which was a great experience with a bunch of friends. Fantastic. Journey to the Center of the TARDIS. This is another one of those season 7 episodes with a great premise but a strange ending. It will go into B tier. Some of the sets are awesome. Just the general concept behind this episode of like having an episode completely in the infinite depths of the TARDIS is fantastic. but some of those three brothers or whatever that were the main antagonists in this episode were really weird, really unrealistic. I know that really doesn't matter to some people, but in the context of this, where you want to believe the characters, I found them pretty unbelievable, and I wasn't invested in them. But I don't know. It was fine. It had some cool stuff. B tier. Hide is another B tier episode of, I believe, season 7 again. Unless there's, yeah, because season 7 was Matt Smith's last season. But let me take a drink of water. Oh man. But what was I up to? Hide. Yeah, it's been so long since I've seen it. But I remember that it had to do with, unless I'm mixing it up. So I think the Doctor and Clara went to this place which there's a couple that are investigating supernatural activity. And then the Doctor goes, I honestly, I'm trying to remember what happens, but I have this vision in my head. Like, I know essentially what it comes down to is that there's two aliens that are trapped in different timelines or something, and then the Doctor saves them and brings them together, and they love each other or something. Like, I thought it was cool. Like, this is one of those episodes where I think it's a good, like, execution of something interesting. I liked it all the way through, but I haven't once thought about it since it ended, so it didn't really stick with me. But I can't find any reason to fault it. It was a fun episode, like a lot of these episodes in B tier. The Time of the Doctor, A tier episode. This is the finale for Matt Smith. It brings everything in. It brings the papal mainframe and the silence and the Daleks and the 50th anniversary special with the Time Lords, granting him, through a crack in the wall, an extra regeneration or an extra set of regenerations. It's just a fun episode with emotional resonance at the end when he regenerates and gives his speech. And it is funny to see how grand the regeneration speeches have become over time, with like Eccleston. Actually, I haven't covered any Eccleston episodes. I wonder if they're here. But like, he just like essentially just transforms quickly without anything. Tennant gives like this big emotional like like walking around the TARDIS, I guess. And then now Matt Smith just gives this big long speech, and I love it, and it's great. And The Time of the Doctor is a great Christmas special. I was very excited when I watched it, and it really paid off. Death of the Doctor. What is this? Looking at the picture. Let me. I don't know what the hell this is. Death of the Doctor. Another thing I've never heard of. Into the Dalek. This was well, I guess this is the first Capaldi episode I'm talking about. Capaldi is a great Doctor. There's some weird things going on in his seasons, though. I don't know I'll talk about it a bit later, I guess. But Into the Dalek is a weird episode. I'll put it in C tier, honestly. They go inside it. They become small. Go inside a Dalek. It's one of Capaldi's first episodes, and it's not too memorable. I think the Dalek becomes good at the end or something. Honestly, I don't remember. I'll put it in C tier. Deep Breath. So this was Capaldi's first episode. I remember not liking it too much when I first watched it, but it's fun. Like, when you know who Capaldi is as a Doctor, like when you've seen all these seasons, going back to this, it's just fun to see him introduced. And I always appreciated this episode for the subtle, I don't know how subtle it is, but I always thought it was subtle, connection with the Girl in the Fireplace creatures there, where they're like clockwork creatures trying to create or replicate humans in a way, and this way, and by using the skin here, they become a lot more human. I just thought it was a really cool thing. But this was, yeah, I guess this episode is kind of emblematic of Capaldi's run, where it's like, for me, at least to me, the episodes are like good, but there's always something off about them, where I don't know if it's the wrap up or the pacing or something, but it's just always, there's something off about a lot of his episodes where I'm like, I love his performance, I love it on a conceptual level, I should love these episodes, but there's just something off about them. So B tier for him, for that episode particularly. Now that I think about it, I'll move it down to C tier. It's honestly not that good. There are a lot more better Capaldi episodes. For instance, Kill the Moon. This is a B tier. So this is I remember when I watched this live, I saw it like 3 times or something, and I really hated this episode, and I can't tell you why now. I remember. I think my biggest issue with this, I guess just to give a recap, this episode was about the Doctor and Clara going to the future. This is Capaldi, another Capaldi episode, where they go to the moon and they find out that the moon is an egg and there is a baby, big giant alien growing inside the moon, and they have to decide whether to kill the moon or not. Whether to kill the moon by detonating these nukes and then saving the Earth, but then having to kill this possibly unique creature, or to take the risk and not kill it, but potentially kill the Earth if it destroys the moon and kills all of humanity when being born. But so my issue with it when I watched it was that at the end it felt like Clara's outburst at the end with the Doctor. It just felt like it came out of nowhere, and it felt very unnecessarily emotionally charged, where I didn't feel like it was justified in its emotions. But looking back, I like having seen these episodes again through reactions and stuff. It's not as bad as I thought, and I do find it a fun episode. So I'd put it in B tier. Okay, so Jesus, we still got so many to go. Okay, Robot of Sherwood. So this is an episode where we get to meet Robin Hood, and the episode is carried by the banter between the Doctor and Robin Hood, and then both trying to impress Clara. It's a fun episode, not too consequential. It'd go in C tier. I didn't like it at the time, but I think I've grown on it. Yeah, quintessential C tier. Okay, now we're getting some good Capaldi episodes. Mummy on the Orient Express. This is an A tier episode. It's another one of those pretty self-contained. Or honestly, I wouldn't really say it's self-contained. I guess it's another one of those like small set, like one location. It's just on a single train, and all the carriages look the same. Excuse me. And the episode is carried by the scenes where you've got Capaldi the Doctor trying to figure out what's going on and why people dying every 7 minutes or something. And it's great. It's Capaldi at his best. We get to see him kind of take command and like take charge of a scene. And his monologue, I guess, when he's like trying to figure out when he puts the mummy on on himself, and he has like a minute to try and figure out what's going on. It's just great. A lot of tension, a lot of clever things going on, and I like it. And the ending, when it's kind of Clara and the Doctor just sitting on some planet with a weird, like, interesting color scheme and atmosphere, just talking about if he would have actually just let them die or not, and he's like, yes, I would have, and it's just, I don't know, it's fun. I really like the atmosphere at the end. Great episode, A tier, Mummy on the Orient Express. The Caretaker, another fantastic Capaldi episode. This is like borderline S tier, but I can't put it in S tier, but it's really great. This is another episode where you've got the Doctor just living in the life of a companion for a bit. So in this case, the Doctor is inspecting or like setting up a trap at the school that Clara works at to capture an alien, the Skovok Splitzer or something from memory. That is really dangerous. It's like the most dangerous thing in the galaxy or something. but it's just a fun episode with the Doctor trying to blend in with everyday life, and it's the introduction of Danny Pink to the Doctor, and I like it a lot. Like, we get to introduce the Doctor to the boyfriend of the companion, and it's fun, and then seeing them conflict and them kind of resolve it by the end, and it's all about the Doctor caring for Clara, and I like it. Fun episode, The Caretaker, one of Capaldi's better episodes. Time Heist, another great Capaldi episode. This would be B tier. It's just, I mean, it's a pretty simple premise. You got a heist, and it turns out the heist is through time, because the Doctor, in the future, actually, I don't even remember why it is a time heist. I think it's something like the Doctor in the future recruits the Doctor in the past to kind of break out or to commit a heist, but in the end they find out that the heist is to free the enslaved wife or something of the alien that is working at the bank. And it's a fun, wacky, cool episode where Doctor Who tries to do a heist, and it's fun. B tier. Okay, so there's Death in Heaven, but I think I'll start with Dark Water. So this was a two-part finale, Dark Water and Death in Heaven. Dark Water is an S tier. It is fantastic build-up, where the premise is that people are... Actually, I don't remember what's known to the public or not, but the general idea is that people are living after death in this facility, and... No, wait, sorry. Well, I think what we find out is that the human race realizes that people are still alive after death, and that you can contact them after death. And it's just the cool premise behind this episode, where the Doctor visits the location where you can contact them and talk to them, the dead. And the reveal is that these dead bodies that are being exhibited in this place are Cybermen. Honestly, the more I think about it, the less I remember about this episode. I just remember really liking it and the concept behind it. But I just can't explain why, I guess, at this point. But it's a fantastic S tier episode with a great concept that's executed really well. Now, there's the second part, which was Death in Heaven, which was a very big disappointment. Danny Pink becomes a Cyberman, and it's strange. The Doctor becomes the president of the world or something, and it was a strange ending to this story. It didn't feel very thematically strong or particularly emotionally impactful or anything interesting like that. I remember the color grading, I think that's what you would call it, or maybe just the general lighting of scenes and stuff. I thought that was really interesting. This episode looks really good, in my opinion. I have these images in my head of Danny as a Cyberman and it just looking really good. But I think it's just more of a plot issue. I just didn't find it too interesting, the plot of what was happening. But Missy is great. I also I didn't mention that in Dark Water, but Missy is a fantastic representation of the Master. She is probably the best Master in the show, and is great. Flatline. So, if I'm remembering correctly, I think Flatline and Mummy on the Orient Express were written by the same guy, or directed by them or something. And people were praise. I remember at the time on DoctorWho.co.tv or whatever, and Gallifrey base, people were praising this guy. This guy's got to be the next showrunner. He's so great. He's made 2 of the best episodes in a long time, and nothing ever came of it. But Flatline is fine. It's a decent B tier one of it's an average Doctor Who episode, where the TARDIS is becoming small, and because some two-dimensional creatures are trying to suck up the dimensions and turn into 3-dimensional creatures or something. It's an interesting concept, but I don't know, similar to most issues I have with a lot of episodes, it just wraps up really quickly. I feel like they could have just spent some more time on it. But I thought the concept was cool. It was decently interesting, I guess. In the Forest of the Night, this is a bad episode. I guess, yeah, I think the idea was that Clara and Danny, who work at a school, they take the kids in a class on a vacation to a museum, but when they wake up from like sleeping or something, it's a forest in the city. And the girl, one of the children, goes missing or something. It was just uninteresting. And I'm just remembering now, like, I think the message was that you shouldn't burn down the forest because the forest will protect you or something. Like, because at the end, the forest was actually there because it was trying to shield the Earth from some supernova or something that was going to burn it if the forest wasn't there to sacrifice itself. I don't know. It's a weird episode, which was really strange. Anyway, C tier. Like, it's not terrible. It's not D tier, but it's definitely a C tier. Maybe I would put a top of D tier, honestly, now that I think about it. Oh boy, I think I'm gonna lose my voice. So, next we have Under the Lake, and Before the Flood, here it is. I really like these episodes. So these were great. These are one of the first episodes in season 9, I believe. And they followed season 8, which I wasn't too fond on a lot of those episodes, but season 9 really was a great step up. And these were two really interesting sci-fi concepts that was surprisingly unique to Doctor Who. Like, they've never done this before in Doctor Who, where you have the first episode taking place in the future, or like in the present, I guess, and then the second episode is going back in time to kind of set up a lot of what's happening in the first episode. And that's something pretty unique to these episodes that I really enjoyed. And season 9 has a lot of a big step up from season 8, in my opinion. At least I hope this is season 9. But yeah, there would be a solid B tier. Probably towards the top of B tier, but I'll sort that out later. Before the Flood and Under the Lake. And I guess the titles are also cool. You've got Under the Lake, where you're like, you don't really question it, but there's a lake out there, and you're like, oh, why is this here? And then Before the Flood is kind of explaining how that lake actually came to be, and it's just cool. A great concept. Last Christmas. This is the worst Christmas special. This is a bad episode, uninteresting. I think it had like an Alien reference or something, and I hadn't seen Alien at the time, so I didn't understand it. Santa's in this, but I don't know if it was actually Santa or not. And I don't even know if it was a dream or not, because I remember Clara like woke up from a dream and she was old or something. I don't know. I think the whole concept of this episode was about dreams, now that I think about it. But yeah, this was a terrible episode. I don't like this. This is one of probably my least, off the top of my head, this is my like least favorite episode of Doctor Who. It's bland, uninteresting, nothing creative in my opinion. The characters were weird that were in this. But it's an episode of Doctor Who, so far at the bottom. Now, another fantastic entry in season 9, which is a great season, in my opinion, The Magician's Apprentice and The Witch's Familiar. So, I hope I'm not confusing this, but I believe these are two... I really hope I'm not confusing this, but in my memory, these are the two Dalek episodes where they go to Skaro, and we get to see the Daleks in their prime on their home planet, as Davros is going to die, and the Doctor and Davros have scenes together where they're like kind of bonding over their shared trauma that they've induced on each other over the past, and kind of the Doctor showing kindness to Davros in his last moments. But then at the end, it's revealed that Davros was just playing the Doctor, but was he really? You know, maybe they do have that kind of friendship that is just like kind of blending the truth with a lie in the end. It's just really cool. I really hope I'm not missing this up, because I remember there was also the flashback to child Davros at the beginning of the episode, and the Doctor kind of saying, like, implying that he's not going to save him, but then he does save him in the end, and it's a nice, neat little thing, character thing about the Doctor. But yeah, on the other hand, you've also gotten these two episodes, Clara and Missy together. It's fine, not too interesting. The Davros and Doctor stuff were probably the best, as well as the setting in Skaro, fantastic. These are definitely top of B tier kind of episodes. Next we have The Woman Who Lived. What is this? So I this is really strange, but I don't actually like this is a Capaldi episode, but I don't remember what it was. So the woman, I'm assuming it's related to the girl who died. Yeah, so these are the Macy Williams episodes, I guess you could say, where you see her grow up in, I mean, you first see her when she's a Viking, and in the next episode, oh, I guess at the end of that episode, the Doctor accidentally makes her immortal, and the next episode is seeing her in the future, and seeing what she became as an immortal. These two are pretty boring, bland episodes. I'd put them in D tier. I mean, Macy Williams is great. It's great to have her in Doctor Who. I like her as an actress. But I just thought it was just uninteresting. I don't like Vikings. I guess until I saw Vinland Saga, I like the Vikings in that. But I don't know, bland. I thought the way they made Me immortal, I guess that was her name, really, Me, or Isilda or whatever. Yeah, I thought the way they made her immortal by just healing her was really strange. Like, the odds of her not getting... I mean, it all comes down to a realism argument, which then breaks down into a believability argument, which then breaks down to, like, an immersion argument, and I don't know, it's strange. I thought it was strange how they just made her immortal. Anyway, D-tier episode, because they're boring. Now, let's start off with the Saigon Invasion. So this was the introduction of the Saigons back into the story after the 50th anniversary. I don't remember much from it. I remember it took place... I don't remember. I think it was like in... I guess what's interesting about this episode is that there's definitely some higher level, like, parallel going on here. I don't know what it's paralleling, but, like, clearly you've got people who look like you but aren't you, and whether you should treat them equally if they're like potentially evil. I don't know what it is. I'm sure there's some like allegory here that I can't pick up on, but I thought it was just a boring episode, the Saigon Invasion. But the Saigon Inversion, this is a S tier episode, purely because what we get is it all leads up to a speech by Capaldi where he's talking about just the horrors of war and how the situation he creates with these two boxes, and people just, you got two representatives from each race with a button, and it's like, this is a scale model of war, basically. And he gives his big speech about how this is bad and how he knows what it's like to be in this situation, and it's a fantastic character piece for both the Doctor, and it's just a great it's just, I don't know, it's just great. That's all I can say. The Saigon Inversion is one of the best episodes, surprisingly one of the best episodes of Doctor Who, which I had no idea when I'd just seen the first part. It truly lives up to its name of a Saigon Inversion, where it really inverts what was going on in the first episode and executes on it masterfully. Yeah, Capaldi's best episode, probably. Oh, well, there is one more, but best episode so far. And here we are, his best episode, Heaven Sent. This is either the best or the second best episode of Doctor Who. I will probably put it just behind A Christmas Carol, just because I love A Christmas Carol so much. But Heaven Sent is a masterpiece. It is a completely one character in this story, which is the Doctor, and it's him living life in an eternal loop where he lives for billions of years, living the same life over and over, in this tiny little maze where he's trying to break through. And the way he breaks through in the end is by just punching that wall a few times at the end of every single lifetime, giving a speech, and over billions and billions of years, finally he breaks through this invincible wall. And it's so enthralling and engaging, and it's sci-fi done well. It's technically not standalone, like you should probably, like, it connects with the larger story, but if you like sci-fi, you'd probably enjoy this just by watching it and knowing that the Doctor is just, like, knowing the context of him being trapped here. Even if you don't, it explains it pretty well. This is a brilliant episode. It's shot beautifully, like, it looks beautiful. The acting is beautiful. The writing is fantastic and engaging, and it's perfect. It's Doctor Who at its peak, and just television at its peak in general. Sleep No More. This is a D tier episode. I don't remember much about this beyond the fact that it was shot from a point of view, I think. like a lot of the footage was like from people's helmets that they were like characters in the shows. You would see their helmets, and I think it ended on this weird meta like cliffhanger where it's like throughout the whole episode, it's like if you see this video, then you will turn into sand or something, I think. And then at the end, they show us the video. I'm like, oh no, we're going to turn into sand. But I think all it really implies is that there's a alternate. This was set in like an alternate universe or something. I honestly, I don't remember. It was a weird episode. Weird start, weird ending, weird premise, weird choice to like have a point of view for the camera. And it's one of the weirdest, strangest episodes. Like, I can respect it for being so bold. Like, it definitely wouldn't be at the bottom of D tier just because it's so different from everything else. But it was just weird. I didn't enjoy it that much. On the other hand, we've got Face the Raven. So this is technically Clara's death is shown at the end of this episode, but she does get saved in it in the next episode. But it's fine. Like, essentially the Doctor and Clara go to some alley and they meet Macy Williams, and to save someone who has been cursed, Clara takes the curse onto herself, but she doesn't realize that by taking it on herself, she's solidified it and it can no longer be undone, and so she's cursed to die. The bulk of this episode is just uninteresting, but it's at the end of it is what saves it, where you have Clara sacrificing herself, I guess, to save someone, and the Doctor kind of showing a bit of his anger towards Macy Williams, or me, I guess, or Isilda or whatever, and showing just how dangerous it is to be on the side of his rage. I think that's probably what shoves this up from a D tier up into a C tier episode, so I'll put it around here for now. Hellbent, I would put it very similarly to Face the Raven. It's probably a little bit better. But essentially, it's just the second part of this finale, or the third part of this finale. It comes right after Heaven Sent, which is either the best or the second best episode of Doctor Who. And it follows the Doctor after he escapes from the Time Dial prison in the previous episode, and he is on Gallifrey. So the bulk of this episode is him saving Clara from her death, like extracting her from the moment before her death, and then they have a conversation. They go to the distant future, have a conversation with Macy Williams' character. Me is her name. And I don't remember what happens, but it's essentially the Doctor forgets Clara, and Clara and Macy Williams just go on to live in their own Tardis and get sent off and go fly and go on their own adventures, which would be cool to see. But it was a strange episode, a strange way to end the story, strange way to end Clara's story as a whole. But it's fine, perfectly passable C tier episode. The Husbands of River Song. So this is the start of a very strange season. I think it was season 10. So season 8 was a weak season in my opinion for Capaldi. Capaldi's just great. He's one of the best Doctors, but the episodes he got were a bit weird. Season 9 was fantastic. Season 10 was just weird. Like, it felt like it was written by a completely different, like, head writer or something. Like, showrunner. I don't even know how to describe it, but season 11 was very different. Season 10 was very different from everything else. And The Husbands of River Song is such an example where it feels like to me, it just feels like a daydream I had. Like, it doesn't even feel like there was a story to it or anything. Like, I cannot for the life of me explain what happened in this episode, except for at the end where the Doctor takes River to the Singing Towers of Beryllium, and they have that moment that she talked about in the Forest of the Dead. And yeah, it's a strange episode. It feels like a daydream. I don't remember what happened. It feels pretty surreal to just think about it. I don't know why. And one of the weirdest episodes. Yeah. C tier, low of C tier episode. The Return of Dr. Mysterio. So this was a fun, I don't know if it was a Christmas special or a New Year's episode, or something along those lines, but it was it's like the Doctor Who's first superhero episode, where you have this guy who accidentally becomes a superhero because of something the Doctor does, and just seeing his dual life where he's like a superhero by night and a normal person by day. I don't have too much to say. It was just a fun episode. The most when I think to this episode, the thing I think about is the joke with the squeezing of that doll, which was a bit terrifying but funny. Yeah, the return of Dr. Mysterio, another good Capaldi episode. Oh boy, alright. Here we go. So, now we've got the pilot, which was the first episode of season 10, I believe. Which was a very strange season, like I ranted about strangely a bit before. It's the introduction of Bill as the companion. It was another weird season 10 episode where you've got I wish I could articulate why I found season 10 so weird. Like in this episode, you've got Capaldi as like like the Doctor as like a background piece of the story, I guess, where the focus is really on the relationship between Bill and the water lady. And it's just not a very interesting relationship, and the Doctor tends to be the most interesting parts of a lot of these stories, and he doesn't really do much, and I can't really articulate why I don't like a lot of these season 10 episodes, but it gets placed here in C tier, and I can't really explain why. Like, it's not terrible, like I can't put it in D tier, but I can't put it any higher than C tier, and I think I need to self-reflect a bit on season 10, but that's where it goes. And the exact same, I know Smile is a D tier. Like I don't remember much about it. I remember just finding it very uninteresting and very uncreative. And I think like a very weird like nitpick. But I remember they showed a brain, like a skull of I think it was like an anatomical skull or something, and it just wasn't anatomically correct, and I was like, this is strange. Something like that. But Smile is a weird episode, but let's hurry this up. We got so many left. Thin Ice, another weird season 10 episode I don't remember anything about. I know it had to do with the ice. I know there were some blinking lights under the ice or something, and I don't remember anything else. Knock Knock? I don't know what the hell that is. I think that's Bill, so maybe it was a season 10 episode, but I don't know who the hell that is. No idea. Knock Knock. Oxygen. So this is another season 10 episode I don't remember anything about. The only thing I remember is that the Doctor goes too long outside in space and loses his vision because of it. Weird episode, but I like that. That was a bold thing to do to the Doctor, so I'll put it in T tier just for that boldness. So now there's Extremis and the pyramid at the end of the world. So the idea behind these episodes were that you've got so you've got some species that are simulating a bunch of universes, and this first episode, Extremis, takes place in that simulated universe. So it's a pretty interesting concept, so I'll put it in B tier, where you're trying to piece together what's going on, but at the end there's just no resolution, because what you figure out is that you are a simulation, and the people simulating you are just out of your reach. It's just impossible to reach them and do anything about it. All you can do is contacts the Doctor somehow in that universe, and I don't know, it's an interesting concept that Doctor Who somehow hadn't tackled up until this point about simulations, and I thought it was interesting. Live Land, I got no idea, but Pyramid at the End of the World was part 2 of this Extremis. So what we see is we go to the real world, or the non-simulation, and we see the race that is simulating all of these universes, and the Doctor kind of stops them. And I don't remember much about it, like a lot of season 10 episodes for some reason, but it was fine. I remember enjoying it. I remember there was like some plot going on where the end of the world was being set up by some like experiments in some bio lab or something, and I thought that was interesting. So there's stuff I found interesting. I just don't remember much, and if it's not memorable, then it probably doesn't deserve to be very high in this list, in my opinion. So now, The World Enough in Time and The Doctor Falls. So The World Enough in Time is it's not perfect, so I can't put it in S tier in my opinion, but it's a fantastic setup for establishing the Mondasian Cybermen in the main Doctor Who universe, or at least the modern Doctor Who universe, I guess. So what we see is we're seeing all of these sick people in some spaceship, and the spaceship is so large, and I think it's orbiting, or it's like trying to fly away from this massive sun or black hole or something, and because of that, it creates massive time dilation where the people at the bottom of the ship closest to the black hole are traveling a lot slower in time versus the people who at the top of the ship are traveling much faster, and that leads to rapid evolution at the top. So at the bottom, we're going from these just normal people to the top of the ship where we've already created a civilization of Cybermen. And it's just such a cool concept where Doctor Who is kind of targeting this new sci-fi concept of time dilation, and it does it really well, and it's a great build-up, and we also get the reveal of the Master, the John Sims Master from Tennant's era, somehow being alive in this time period, and it was really interesting. But this was a great setup, which in The Doctor Falls was kind of wasted, because The Doctor Falls I didn't enjoy much at all. I guess the only thing that really stands out to me from this episode was the two masters interacting with each other and then killing each other. I thought it was cool. Other than that, nothing of note. I've always found Bill to be a very uninteresting companion. And a lot of season 10 to just be pretty uninteresting, except with the exception of World Enough in Time. That is a very good episode. Yeah, The Doctor Falls is one of the worst. A pretty bad episode in my opinion. Pretty uninteresting in C tier. Oh, Eaters of Light. Oh no. Because I think Extremis and Pyramid at the End of the World, I think the Eaters of Light are somehow related to that. So unless I've messed something up, maybe I think Extremis was like a prequel where you've got this, or maybe I'm just messing this up completely, but I think Extremis was like a prequel where you've got Simulation, then you've got a two-parter, which is the Pyramid at the End of the World and the Eaters of Light, that are the resolution to the Simulation episodes. So I honestly, maybe that could be completely wrong and off base, but I'm just going to assume that's the case and put them both near C tier. The Empress of Mars, I think this was another season 10 episode, which I don't know what it was. Like, they were on Mars, there was an Empress. I think they like almost killed, like the humans almost killed the Martians or something, and there was some war was going to get started, but the Doctor stops it. I don't know. Weird episode, D tier. I don't remember much. Oh, so here we go. Finally, some Eccleston episodes. Rose, the first episode ever of Doctor Who. Fun episode. It definitely hooked me. I mean, it wasn't the first episode I watched, but if I did watch it, I think it would definitely hook me into the show. It's a fun episode. We got mannequins. The mannequins are moving because they're aliens, or they're not really aliens, but I don't know. Fun episode. Interesting, creepy concept. It's what Doctor Who does well, and a good pilot for the show. Twice Upon a Time. This is a uninteresting Christmas special, which I could not for the life of me explain what happens. Bill is a crystal alien or something, and the aliens aren't doing an evil plan, so the Doctor doesn't know what to do. And then I mean, the one thing I remember distinctly from this episode was that when they return Mark Gatiss, whatever his character's name was, to the battlefield, it's revealed that it's that one battle in where the two sides kind of paused the war for Christmas and they sang Christmas carols and stuff like that. It's cool. That's the one redeeming thing in this episode, which was full of other boring stuff, but that really redeemed it in my opinion. So well done. A good take on every time Doctor Who does like historical stuff, it's always elevating what's in the show. Oh, sorry, what's in the rest of the episode. So I'll put it in top of D tier for that. What is this? For tonight we might die. No idea. Probably another weird bonus thing or something. I don't know. The End of the World. So this is the introduction to the Face of Bo, to Cassandra, the Tree People. It's a good episode. Like, honestly, a lot of the season 1 episodes, they're just consistently good. Like, they're not really amazing, with a few exceptions, but they're just solidly good, enjoyable. I enjoyed The End of the World. It has some cool sci-fi stuff. You see the expanding of the sun to engulf the Earth, and Rose gets to see everything that she's ever known just be destroyed, and it makes you think, and I like it. It's a good episode. B tier. The Unquiet Dead. I don't know anything. I think this is a historical episode because not really, but like vaguely historical, because I think the main character was like some guy who wrote stories or something. But I don't know anything about him, so I wasn't very interested. I guess the only interesting thing is that I don't know if it was in this episode or like it's in another episode, but I think the Time War, they mentioned that the Time War destroyed the home planet of the aliens in this episode, and I thought that was a really interesting kind of lore and world building thing. But other than that, very uninteresting episode. Then we've got this Silurian, not Silurian, was it Silurian? Slitheen, that's what I'm thinking. What are the Silurians? Let me Google that. Oh, the Silurians are the lizard people. Yeah, the Slitheen chapter with the Slitheen family. Great, fun episodes. I know a lot of people don't like these, but Aliens of London and World War III are fun little episodes with the stereotypical green aliens that are very cliche, but I love them. I love the funny humor with the funny, like, I don't know, juvenile humor with them farting when they're in their suits. It's funny. I like the effect of them like unzipping the mask and seeing that blue light shining out. It's a great practical like little effect there, which is really cool. I remember when I was watching, I was like, I need to memorize their planet of like Raxacorica Falbatorius. I always thought it was a cool name, you know, and they had their brother planet or sister planet in Clom of in Love and Monsters. I don't know. It's just fun. I like the Slitheen. I like these 2 episodes. Harriet Jones, good stuff. Maybe I'm just thinking fondly because it was so long ago that I watched them, but I like them. Dalek, the first episode to the Daleks. This is a solid B tier. Great introduction for the Daleks. I put it up in A tier now that I think about it. So the Doctor goes with Rose to a museum in the distant future that has a bunch of future and past tech, and there's this one guy obsessed with like collecting everything, and they come across, or they've captured this Dalek and they don't know what it is, and then Rose awakens it, I think, and it's just a nice philosophical episode it ends up being, when the Dalek just has no purpose and it realizes its entire race has died, along just like how the entire race of the Doctor has died, and it like creates a little connection between them, and in the end it commits suicide. It's just a sweet little episode to introduce the Daleks. I really liked it. So now there's The Long Game and Boomtown. Now these... Okay, so this is going to be... I'm a bit vague on what these were. So I think The Long Game was the one where they go to Satellite 9, or whatever, with... So essentially there's the episode I just talked about, like, what was it that I was talking about? Dalek, where you've got the curators there at the museum. One of those guys ends up tagging along with the Doctor at the end, and they go to the future to some outpost satellite orbiting the Earth. And people are disappearing when they get promoted to like some golden floor of that satellite, and the episode is just about kind of figuring out that mystery. It's fine. It's fun. Like, honestly, it's one of the more fun episodes of Doctor Who. There's not too much to think about in the episode, but it's just a lot of those early Doctor Who episodes were just great because of how simple and fun they were to watch, and Long Game is one of those episodes. Boomtown, another. I think this is probably a B tier episode just because I like the Slovene so much. But if I'm remembering correctly, this was the one with that one female Slovene that is left over after the rest of the family has died. And her plan is to blow up the Earth. I mean, it's the same plan as the Slovene had before, I think, which is that they're going to blow up the Earth and then sell parts of it. But she gets captured by the Doctor, and throughout the whole episode, it's like her trying to kill the Doctor or convince him to let her go, and he just never does it. And in the end, she looks into the TARDIS's heart and gets turned into an egg, and it's wacky and weird and fun, and I like it, like most of the early Doctor Who episodes in season 1. Father's Day, so another solid B tier episode from season 1. This is all about the time paradoxes. So Rose goes back in time, saves her dad from dying, and it creates a paradox. And throughout the episode, she gets to spend some time with her dad and get to know him a lot more than she ever did, or ever had the possibility to. And it's sweet. And I don't remember, but I think he voluntarily gives up his life at the end, I think, from memory. And it's a sweet episode. Yep, B tier. Now we get the introduction of Captain Jack Harkness in The Doctor Dances and The Empty Child. Now, these are it's probably Stephen Moffat's, not weakest, but my least favorite of his episodes. I know a lot of people love these episodes, but to me they weren't that interesting. But my favorite part is just the introduction of Captain Jack, who is probably one of my favorite characters in this whole show. But I think they're solid C tier episodes. They take place during either World War, I think it's World War One, maybe World War Two, and it's just a mystery kind of story where people are turning into these weird alien things where their like mask is like fusing to their face, and it's creepy and has a cool atmosphere and everything. I just personally wasn't too invested in it. But it's a Stephen Moffat episode. I imagine most people will love it. It's really well written. All right, let me take a drink before we finish this off. All right. Listen is a great episode. So Listen is about how you've got you've got species of aliens that are perfect at like, I don't remember what the comparison he made, but essentially what it comes down to is that what if there's aliens out there that are perfectly perfect at hiding, so you can never notice them. It's impossible to see them. You can't interact with them. Like, they probably exist, but how would you know? And this whole episode is about that, and it's a cool episode. And to top it all off, it ends with the Doctor, or us seeing the Doctor as a child and seeing how his fear of the unknown, or fear of the thing under his bed, came about in the story when Clara touches his legs as a kid. And it's just a sweet little thing they didn't have to include that they did. And Listen is a really fun episode. I'll put it in A tier. So now we've got Parting of the Ways and Bad Wolf. So I believe Bad Wolf was the first one. So these are the 2 season ending episodes for season 1. So Eccleston's final 2 episodes. And just like a lot of the, season 1 episodes, these are fun episodes. These are honestly probably the best of season 1. I'd happily put them in A tier. So it's the reintroduction of the Daleks into the story. It starts off with kind of this fun setting where you've got Captain Jack and Rose and the Doctor kind of automatically, they wake up in these like game show kind of settings where they're all being televised, and like Big Brother and I don't know, a bunch of cool shows like that. And it's a really fun concept that they've done well in the show. And then it ends with the reveal of the Daleks being out there. And then the second part is Christopher Eccleston's last episode, his regeneration, and Rose becomes Bad Wolf, which is a really I've always loved it, like where she is willing to do anything to save the Doctor or be with him, and she absorbs the heart of the TARDIS and basically becomes a god. And it's cool. I don't know what else to say. I enjoyed it. It's cool. Good stuff. A tier. Season 1 is probably the most consistent season, honestly. It doesn't have any standout crazy good episodes, but it's really consistent in its great quality, and I can see why it was, like, why it kicked off New Who so well. Let me go to Time of Angels. I've already done that. That is part 1 of the Flesh and Stone, I think. Where now? Okay, this is going to be interesting. Where did I put this? Surely it's in A tier, right? Flesh and Stone. Did I put it in B tier? Help me out, you know? I guess if it was possible, you would help me out, you know? But I got no idea. Leave it in the comments. Where is Flesh and Stone? How many times did I overlook it? Man. Where is this? I mean, this is certainly... Yeah, I was going to say, it's definitely an A tier. There we go. Flesh and Stone, A tier. Just up... Time of Angels, sorry. Okay, so now we have 2 episodes left. Thank God. The Beast Below. This is a boring episode. This goes in D tier. And sadly, I think it was from memory, the 2nd episode in Matt Smith's run in season 5. But it's just so boring. It takes place in some weird future when everyone lives on a ship, like all of humanity, and the moral of the story is that they're abusing an alien to kind of fly them, a space whale that the city is sitting on the back of, and the story is that they stop torturing it and it keeps serving them. So it's kind of become a slave, but then it's like it kind of the message is that it wants to help them because there's kids on board and it likes kids. That's why it doesn't eat them. I don't know. It was strange. A D tier episode. And Victory of the Daleks. So another pretty boring season 5 episode. And I think again this was like 3rd or 4th episode in Matt Smith's run. So he started really strong with the 11th Hour, and then like I think he had like 2 or 3 pretty poor episodes in a row. But then it really kicked off from there. But Victory of the Daleks, it's fine. You get the colourful Daleks. You get Winston Churchill, which is he was always fun in the show. But I don't want to watch this again. I found it so boring, and I don't know. I don't find World War II that interesting either, honestly. There's a lot of stuff I don't find interesting in history. Also World War One. I don't know. I think it's World War II. But Victory of the Daleks, boring. Colourful Daleks, that's fine, but yeah, D tier. Now, I need to sort all of these. This is going to be interesting. I think I'll start from the bottom and then go to the top. What is the worst episode of Doctor Who? The Woman Who Lived, The Beast Below, Sleep No More, Unquiet Dead, Fear Her, Thin Ice is pretty damn bad. Smile is pretty damn bad. Last Christmas is the worst episode of Doctor Who, followed by Smile, and then Thin Ice, and then I don't really know about it. All the rest is pretty similar. What should I put high? Twice Upon a Time was fine. Woman Who Lived was fine. Sleep No More was interesting. Unquiet Dead. Fear Her was fine. I'm fine with the rest of these. C tier. Pyramid at the End of the World, Leaders of Light, Robots of Sherwood, Deep Breath, Long Game, Bells of St. John. I think these are all fine. Hellbent, maybe I'd move Hellbent up to the top of C tier. It's honestly not that bad. School Reunion, Runaway Bride, 42. It's fine. Almost People, Cold War. Husbands of River Song is pretty damn bad. The Doctor Falls is honestly probably around here. Yep, okay, B tier. Nightmare and... Alright, this is going to be tough, actually. Angels Take Manhattan. Under the Lake. And Before the Flood. Damn, this is really hard. Damn, Death in Heaven. Honestly, you know what? Screw all these. We can have... Okay, so we got... I've organized the worst. Now I'll organize the best. I think that's probably the best way to do this. So A Christmas Carol is the best, followed by Heaven Sent, followed by... let's have a look. I think I'm safe to put Utopia there. Then The Girl in the Fireplace, that's fine. I think The 11th Hour, Vincent and the Doctor, Day of the Moon, Impossible Astronaut, Silence in the Library. Okay, so A Christmas Carol, Heaven Sent, Utopia, The Girl in the Fireplace, The Satan Pit, The Impossible Planet, The Big Bang, Blink, yep, Silence in the Library and Forest of the Dead. I think Midnight will go above Turn Left. The Pandorica opens. I think these two are pretty well placed here, but then maybe Blink in front of it. Jesus. Midnight, Turn Left, The Rings of Akkad, The Day of the Doctor. The Day of the Doctor's an interesting one. I think that can move up to right behind Blink. Dark Water, Saigon Inversion, The 11th Hour, Vincent and the Doctor, Day of the Moon, The Impossible Astronaut. Perfect. So those are my S tier. I wonder if I can zoom out and show this whole list somehow. Let me have a look. There you go. Enjoy. This is my ranking of every single episode of Doctor Who, except for Doctor Who Flux, maybe, because I didn't see any of those episodes. Maybe even the season before. I haven't seen seasons 11 or 12, I don't think. But here we are. So I hope you enjoyed this. I don't know why. If you're still watching, I'm amazed. Please leave a comment if you're watching this. I can't believe anyone is listening to this right now. This was a long recording session. I've almost lost my voice. But it was fun. I don't know. It turned out fine. So thanks. I'm going to record the intro now.